Okay, so we've got Mark here, and it's
Onsager.
Onsager. Okay, Onsager. Okay, Mark Onsager. Sorry about the name there. Um, and I really appreciate Mark being willing to do an interview today. Mark's got some experience in investing, and he's got you know a very interesting story, especially as it goes into what he's done in the world of cryptocurrency. But it didn't start out there, so I think we should probably go back to the beginning. Like, how did you make a living? And let's just start there. Maybe go back 20, 30 years, where before you started in really getting in, becoming an investor. What led
Sure.
up to becoming an investor? What was your background and all that?
Well, I've basically been had done a lot of engineering in my life. I started in the cable TV business way back in the 80s when there weren't any satellites. There weren't, well, HBO wasn't around, ESPN, none of that was going on. And my job was to find a cable system and figure out the equipment that had to be put out in the field to build a cable system. So I did that for about 24, 25 years and was fortunate enough to have done it overseas for a while as well. So I lived and worked overseas for about 8 years in various countries. And, just kind of needed to do something different in life and have transitioned into different things. I've done some real estate work. I've done some investing in different projects and in different stocks and things of that nature. And just through a lot of trials and tribulations, have kind of found myself in the place I'm at today.
Yeah, and you're in the U.S., Colorado, right? You've been there your whole life, other than your travels with work.
Yeah, we moved here in '72, so I've been here for a long time. But
Most of your okay, a long time. Okay. And so what would you say was your first investment? What would you say that was? Tell us a little bit about that and how
well,
that
I
got
remember
started.
quite a while back getting into some penny stocks. Was a friend of mine who was a broker, and that's probably where the first part of this went bad. But he was hyping something that was really cool, and it was something that was just going to make us all millionaires. And it looked pretty good for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden, it didn't look really good after a
Uh,
while. So that's one of those where you learn a lesson, but you take a big hit. And that one cost me, I don't know, about $7,000 or $8,000 to
what
learn
what
that.
what decade was that in?
Boy, that had to be late '80s, probably.
Okay, in the 80s. Okay, so that's quite a bit of money back then.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, maybe 20, 30,000 by today's dollar, right?
Yeah, yeah, imagine.
So you had some money left over. But I guess an engineer, they get paid pretty good money. So you had a good
Yeah.
base as far, um, you had something left over to work with. You got involved in penny stocks, and how many of those did you do? One or two or three or a whole bunch or
Those after you learn your lesson pretty fast if you lose that kind of money. So I didn't do that very much. So I just went into traditional stocks, the different uh, funds that they have, and just kind of invested that way through my company, through the IRAs. Did all that stuff. Put as much into the IRAs that you could do, so the company could fund it or help fund it for you, and it was a good way to just try to build that nest egg.
right. So what was your thinking? This goes back in the 80s still, or are we still in the 80s?
Kind of getting into the '90s.
Okay, so we're in the 90s. Now go back to your mindset back in the 90s. Okay, you're younger then than you are now, obviously. And you start thinking about the future. What was going on in your head?
I think at that point it really wasn't that clear. When I look back on it now, of course, hindsight gives you a lot of clarity. But boy, if I'd have known, if I'd have understood what the internet by itself back in the day was really going to look like, it would have been quite remarkable. I remember in part of what we did in the cable business is we had to locate satellites. So we had to have coordinates from the Defense Department to tell us exactly where to look for those satellites. And we had a computer with a dial up modem. You dialed up your phone and you plugged it into the computer, and it just all came up on the screen in a just a text line. It was all text line. There was no periods, no pictures or anything like that.
Wow,
And
this is almost pre-internet, like right before the internet.
as we found out, this was the government's internet that they had way back in the day
Yeah, ARPANET or whatever. Yeah.
before, yeah, exactly, before they actually allowed people to come in and start developing. But had I understood what that was going to mean into the future we have now, I mean, wouldn't you love to invest in Microsoft when it first came out, or Intel, or Apple,
Um,
or any of those,
exactly. Yeah.
just gone nuts. But back then, I didn't anyhow, I didn't appreciate what those were going to look like. So,
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, and we're about similar vintage.
yeah,
They had just barely brought computers into the high school, and they're the big bulky ones, the giant monitors, the tube, the old television set style with the large tube, not way
yeah,
before flat screens. And yeah, and I think Apple had a pretty good, I think everything was Apple in my particular high school. So they were good at, negotiating deals with the education
yeah,
department, I guess. But yeah, it
yeah,
started out there. And I didn't take any computer classes, I was just one of those things like it was a new thing. I remember playing video games, so that was about the closest thing that had of interest at that time.
yeah, yeah.
So there's a couple of video games that I liked. But other than that, the computer didn't interest me that much. But now I can't live without one, right? So
Well, yeah, we have more computing power in our phones than we ever did back in those days. I mean,
yeah.
I remember first uh, kind of a mini frame that had multiple terminals on it. It was called the Wang 2200 MVP, and
Wow.
boy, that's a monster. But it could do everything we needed to. But I tell you, these cell phones we have today, they're 100 times more powerful. It's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
exactly. Yeah, what we hold in our hands, you literally it would take a whole room of computers to,
Yeah.
equal the power, right? So they're really
Yep.
amazing times we are in. So, but going back to investing, obviously technology makes investing, you know, a little bit easier, right? Better.
Yep.
So you went from penny stocks, then you went direct right into stocks. Do you remember what the first stock you ever bought? Do you remember what that was?
Well, it was for the company that I used to work for, one of the cable companies. Was thought it was a great company to work for. Was at the corporate level, so you kind of get into that mindset. It's like this is the big business world now, and you
Mhm.
kind of play along that game. And of course, when you're young, you're very impressionable too. So it's easy to follow a lot in life instead of trying to figure out ways to lead in life. And I think that is a difference for a lot of people in how they approach things.
Okay, so you invested into the company you're working for because you're supporting that company with your time and effort. So yeah,
Sure.
that's a very reasonable way of looking at it.
But there
Okay, and then how'd that pan out for you?
Some of it went really well. I mean, there was other technology stocks that I was interested in, but the company eventually was giving out shares of the company, options, stock options, and that worked out really well. I mean, made some good money doing that, but in an effort to understand the market, you can never really time the highest point in the market
Mhm.
nor the lowest point. And looking back on it again, I've wished I would have just held on to those shares because they were worth, over $1.5 million by the time the cost or the price of the coin or the stock had gotten high enough. So, but
Mhm.
you learned that lesson. I made some money on it, but not as much as I could have. So,
Right. So the company offered as part of compensation, a way to get options, so that would lure you into staying with the company longer, right? Because you probably had a vesting period, right?
sure, you had to vest over 2 years, but it was like a bonus to what
Mhm.
you were doing. So it was, they were saying thank you for your time spent with us, and you're doing a good job, and they appreciate you that way. And so it was nice to get it.
And so you were able to exercise some of those after a couple of years, and you didn't quite get the $100 per share, but you got something. Well, obviously, it was just part of a compensation. So whatever you got was like icing on the cake, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I made plenty of money to pay off all my debts and be debt free and have plenty of extra money. I bought a house and a car, in the same year. So it was nice. It was a little bit of extra money, and it helped me get a little more established, I guess.
so at this point in your life, would you say that the peace of mind was coming into play because you're out of debt? You've got extra money left over that you can roll into opportunity. Did that have an impact on your peace of mind?
Oh yeah, it definitely does. I mean, if you have a good job and they appreciate you, you can always feel that difference
Mhm.
when things aren't as good as what you hope. And um, when they were giving us the options, it was just nice to know that I was going to be there for a while. So it does make a difference.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people can go their entire life without ever having that peace of mind. Sounds like
Yeah.
you got, some peace of mind that a lot of people never experience. You hear about people that, they get through their 20s, their 30s, their 40s or 50s, and then by the time they're 60, they better have some things, kind of lined up where there is something more than Social Security. If you had to live on only Social Security, would you feel good about that or not?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay, so those
It's
people that didn't do good and they're in their
right,
60s and all they have is Social Security, there's nothing secure about it, right? So,
right. Well, and
so
that's reasons why I started. For some reason, something clicked with me in cryptocurrency, and I wanted to get involved in it because when I first started to get involved, I wasn't in that rosy position in life where I didn't have to worry so much. You go through life and you take a few hits along the way, and
sure.
but crypto came along, and I kind of got the idea at that time. When like I
What
said, when
what was the first crypto you ever bought? You know,
it was a company called XYO. It's called the Coin app,
okay.
and it happened to be a Facebook ad that I saw
Uh-huh.
about a company that does geospatial mining.
Okay.
And basically, what that is, it's an app you have on your phone. And as you drive around town or walk around town, it collects geospatial data and it stores it in the blockchain. And it's collecting that data as it collects it. It pays you coins for doing that,
Wow.
and you just keep collecting coins and collecting coins. Now these are coins that are in their app, but then you can convert them to what's called an ERC20 coin, which is on the Ethereum blockchain. And then they become worth money.
Okay.
And that was in, let's see, that would have been 6 years ago. So I guess it would have been in 2019.
Okay. So 2019, that's when you entered crypto as
Yep.
became a crypto investor.
Yep.
And then how much money did you actually put in, or was it purely, providing data and you got money paid for providing data?
Initially, it was purely on the data side, but at that
Okay.
point, like with many coins, they've got multiple zeros. So if you put $1,000 in, you're going to get multiple coins. So I bought some when I was early on, so I was able to collect quite a few coins. And now I'm in a position with what I've bought and what I've mined that it's worth a substantial amount of money. So it was a good investment.
All right. And then what was the first time you ever put like a chunk of money like out of your own pocket, $1,000 or more into crypto? What was that like?
Well, on a regular basis, I was putting in $2,000, $3,000.
On that
Uh,
one coin or a different one?
uh, Not even on that coin in the very beginning, and
Okay,
then
okay.
other coins that were out there in the market, which became pretty exciting once I started learning about more about what crypto was and just got really interested in it. So,
This is 2019. What if you bought coin in 2019 and then sold all your coin in 2019? Would you be where you're at today had you done that?
had I sold right away?
Yeah.
No, not
Okay.
anywhere.
So time is a factor here, right? So,
Yeah.
so what would you say has been your best deal so far in the crypto space? Where have you get the largest gain so far?
Well, so far with XRP, we've talked about.
XRP. Okay,
Yeah.
so t tell us about your XRP journey then. Start at the beginning of that journey and let's
All
hear
right.
about that. Why did you do XRP?
Well, I started listening to some YouTubers, and I kept getting a couple guys talking about this XRP and how it was trying to impact the financial system around the world. And the way they had talked about it, the way they explained it, is our financial system is very old and antiquated, and it needs a serious update. And they started comparing what blockchain is and what it actually means to some of the early days of the internet. And once I start to understand that really crypto is more about a protocol software than it is about the actual coin, or for instance, a company would have stock. I started to learn that, for instance, SMTP is a simple mail transfer protocol that we use every day to send mail around the world, and it can go halfway around the world in 3 seconds.
Mhm.
Well, you can't do that in finance. There's some applications maybe, but the whole world of finance, if you're sending big money, can't do it. So that's the thing that the XRPs of the world and some of these other companies are were trying to affect and are definitely doing that today.
Sorry about that. Someone's trying to get my attention over here.
Ah,
I heard what you said. So
worries. So, yeah, sorry. Where were we there?
so with the XRP,
Oh yeah, XP.
the system's antiquated. So that's why I thought, okay, you're listening to some YouTubers talk
Right.
about it and decided to put some money in. So how much did you start with?
It's kind of hard to say. I'm sure over the last 5, 6 years, I've probably put close to 60, $70,000 in it.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe a
So,
little bit more, because there was one time I made a very large purchase of XRP and did really well. I put in 45 grand at one point
oh wow,
in
in one shot.
in one shot. Yeah, I sold
Mhm.
some of my XYO coins that I had
Uh-huh.
made money on and then invested in that. So,
Okay. All right. And so, XRP, I've looked at their charts before and they tend to go like and then wing and then right?
yeah,
They have these little blips where they shoot up for a minute and then they come down.
yeah.
That's been the pattern. Was this before or after? Did you first invest in XRP before the SEC was going after them and all the legal battles that they've been involved with the Securities Exchange Commission of the U.S., or was it after, were some of that already happening by the time you said go for it anyway, right?
Yeah,
So,
I was in it before the SEC sued XRP. They dropped that lawsuit in
so
2020.
do you remember what the price was when you got in, and what happened to the price after they got sued?
Yeah, well, kind of to step back a sec, the market has a cycle in crypto, and it's a 4-year cycle.
True.
And
Yeah.
going this way and then hitting a big spike and then coming back down was that moment that 4-year cycle took off, and that happens coincides with the Bitcoin halvings that go on.
Yeah.
I noticed that, but
Yeah, they call it the all season, yeah, which is
about 18
just
months after
offset. Yeah.
is when the altcoins or the other coins other than Bitcoin actually start to take off. And we're in that cycle right now where the altcoins are actually starting to climb and climb very quickly.
Hmm.
Of course, the last couple of days we had a bit of a sharp correction, but that's
Hmm.
very normal for this market.
Right.
But so I got into it in 2019, and in 2020 I was involved in the XRP. And in December of 2020, that's when the SEC dropped the lawsuit. And that was at the end of the Trump. Well, sorry, I don't know if I should say that, but that was at the end of the Trump
Yeah.
era before
Right.
Biden,
Right.
and then that whole lawsuit took until actually today. There's a small portion of that lawsuit that's still going uh,
Okay.
on since 2020, so 5 years now.
Yeah, long time. And
Yeah,
that definitely had a negative impact on the valuation of XRP, right?
yeah. I mean, my at the time I was buying XRP at about 20 cents, 18 cents,
Uh-huh.
gotten all the way up to almost $2 a coin.
Okay.
It's all time high, but it was very close.
Did
And
you take some profits about that time, or you
no,
took the ride all the way back down?
I wrote it all the way back down. So
And where did it go down to?
it went back down to about 25 cents.
Okay. But
And then,
how are you gonna know, right? Uh,
right.
yeah, it's like, by the time you're up to $2 and it comes back down to $1.50, how do you know it's going to go all the way back down to 25 cents? You don't know that, right?
No, you don't.
And you're hoping that, well, it's just a pullback and it's going to come back up and work its way back up to $3. That's probably what you were thinking. But then it kept dropping all the way down to
Yeah,
25 cents. But still,
right.
that's your dollar cost average is higher, right? Because you've been doing it a while, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, my
that's
dollar cost,
that's what's really worked for you now, right? So if you fast
yeah,
forward to now, you're glad it came down because it gave you the ability to buy it coming down, right? So explain
yeah,
that strategy.
my cost average is about 30 to 35 cents.
Hmm.
And right now XRP is right around $3. So, I'm on the positive side of this investment. As long as it doesn't flatline and come back down, I think we're going to be good. But I think at this particular junction, this particular time in this market cycle, um, with the excitement of the new administration coming in and actually creating regulations, I think it's going to make a really, really big change and a huge impact on what crypto will do here in the future. I think it's going to, for the next, at least the next 5 years, I think we're going to see by 2030, we're going to see some pretty amazing things.
So when you look at some of these people that are on YouTube talking about XRP, what are some of their projections as to what the value could turn into on XRP?
Well, some of them are, I think a lot of the guys I listen to try to be conservative.
Okay,
Um,
they're trying to be okay.
if you just look at how market cycles work, they go up and down and they do various things. They go up
Yeah,
fast
and
or
then
they go
there's
down fast.
stair stepping. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, called the Fibonacci's and the Elliott waves. Those are the key things that the investors use to watch how the market
That's all.
operates.
That's all markets. That the price of tea in China is the same thing.
It is, it
Yeah,
is. It's with everything.
yeah.
And so um, I think if you're doing a day trading, you can watch that, but um, in the long term, I just think you have to buy and hold. You have to make that long play. But some of the guys have talked about um, sometime towards third or fourth quarter of this year, we could be in the neighborhood of $27 a coin.
Holy cow. And
Yeah,
right now it's at two something or three something now.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
But then there's other people
So
that under
that'd be a pretty extreme jump, right?
yeah, it would be.
In less than a year.
But then there's other people who think it could go much, much higher than that
Really? Wow.
because of what XRP has to do to move money around the world.
Hmm.
If XRP is going to move $1 trillion, for instance,
They're not
uh,
traditional blockchain, so they're actually something faster than a blockchain technology, right? That's what's special about them.
right, but
That's my understanding.
right, and what they'll do is they'll take whatever fiat currency you have, change it into XRP, and then deliver it at the other end in 3 to 5 seconds in whatever the currency you want it to be in.
Right.
So that's where you get into that protocol, that original SMTP protocol, that email protocol that sends it from here to here in 5 seconds and really cheap.
Why
And
do we need banks if they can do that?
well, yeah, yes, that's why they're scared.
Yeah.
All this technology is going to change a lot of that. So,
Things are going to change, and yeah. Um, okay, great. So I understand all of this has led to you becoming like an accredited investor. You get invitations to special offers because you've got the experience and right. So that
well,
must
yeah, it's not because of I'm doing anything special. I'm just trying to learn like anybody has the same exact opportunity. I mean, the information's out there. You just have to go out and search it, go out and learn about it.
so let's wrap this up now. If you could give people advice, so let's say they haven't really done much in the world of investing, you know, on their own, making choices and things like that, and they're interested in becoming an investor. What are some of the key mindset that you would like people to have in order for them to be a successful investor? This needs to be part of your mindset. This needs to be part of your mind. What's the mindset of someone that's going to succeed like you have? You've succeeded
Right.
in investing. Not everybody does. What advice would you give a new person on on things to consider as you become an investor?
Okay, well, that's a big task, but first thing I would say is don't listen to somebody like me because I am not a financial advisor,
That's
right?
right. There you go.
Got to get that one in. And then also one of the key rules in investing is don't invest anything that you can't afford to lose because I don't care what it is, if it's stocks, if it's bonds, if it's treasuries, if it's silver, if it's gold, you can pick the top 100 investments and then throw crypto into it and realize you can lose it all just as fast. So
Right. Doesn't
you
matter. Yeah.
but you have to do your due diligence. You have to learn about the products. You have to learn about the companies. You have to understand what the technology is doing. And the more educated you become, the more comfortable you are with making these decisions. Um,
Who's better off? The person that never invests because they're afraid to take a risk, or the risk taker who does his best at kind of sorting out the information he's presented with? Who do you think is going to be better off at the end of the day? The non-risk taker or the one that, taking measured risks?
yeah, and I think being a risk taker comes with its downside, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know of anybody that's ever gotten into a new business and been successful from day one. You can
Hmm.
look at any of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, any of these guys, they have failed tons of times. You look at some of these guys have filed bankruptcy multiple occasions
Right.
because they take risks. And with those risks, become you can make a lot of money, so it can have great rewards, or they can have really bad downsides. So, but if you're a risk taker and you're thinking about these different things that go on in the world, learn about it. That's the best way to do it, is just learn as much as you can so that you understand the risk that you're taking.
There you go. All right. Continue. What are the points I think are valuable?
Um, yeah, I think it's just spending time watching the charts, perhaps understanding what the charts do. You can look at time frames that go anywhere from 1 minute of a day up to 1 year, and to see the different movements and understand what
So
those like
an education on chart reading.
it would be helpful.
Well, some people call that technical analysis.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Unless you do that every single day and you live it, you're on your computer 8 hours a day. Myself personally, I'm not a day trader. I'm more of a guy that buys it and holds it because I play that long term thing.
Yes,
Um,
less stress, right?
yeah, much less stress.
Yeah.
There's guys who invested in Coca-Cola back in the day when it first came out,
Or
uh,
no,
and they still own it.
yeah.
And
Original shares.
it's a fortune. It's
Yeah,
absolutely minimal. But look at all the guys that bought Bitcoin. When Bitcoin first came out,
yeah.
you could buy Bitcoin for pennies.
10
And
cents, I've heard.
there,
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this story. There was a guy when Bitcoin came out. He didn't know what to do with it, and he was hungry. So he used his Bitcoin to pay for a couple of pizzas.
Yeah.
And he spent, I don't know, like 400 or 500 Bitcoin to buy a couple of pizzas. And can you imagine what that's worth today?
Yeah.
That's like, man,
Well,
that's incredible,
they celebrate Pizza Day every year now as a result of
right?
that, right? That was the first transaction. It was 10,000 Bitcoin for two Papa John pizzas. So he just put the feelers out there. He'd mined quite a bit of it because back in the when it first started, the miners were raking in coin. There weren't that many miners to begin with, right?
And every time it halves, though, they lose half their purchasing or half their mining ability. But that's a
Exactly.
correlation why the price doubles about that time. And every
Exactly.
time Bitcoin price doubles, then the whole market doubles and it follows behind it. So
True.
there's some interesting correlations to it and different trends that you can learn, but you have to learn those trends and understand what they're doing.
And then would you say that short-term thinking is kind of a dangerous way to be an investor? If you're always looking at, you do something now and then you're going to check on it a week from now, you're going to check on it a month from now. Isn't that too short to really, making,
Well, it depends what your
do
intention
your
is.
due diligence in the beginning, right? Right. But
I guess looking at it depends on what you're intending to do.
yeah,
Um, I mean, crypto's kind of fascinating to watch because the markets are pretty volatile sometimes.
they move
So
fast. Yeah.
I have to admit, I probably watch it too many times during the day,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
not just the week or the month, but during the day even. But it's just because I find it fascinating. But you can look at it a month down the road and or just completely forget about it. Don't watch any YouTube videos. Just invest in something and then just forget about it. It's like, put it in the sock drawer and
Right.
never again and wait
Well,
10 years.
if you're starting with something that it doesn't matter if you lose it or not, right? That's where you're if that was your first piece of advice. Don't don't play with money that you need. Play with money, that you if you lose it, life will go on, right?
Right.
So if you're working with that kind of money, then there isn't really a need to get stressed out on the price movement of whatever's going on, especially in crypto. To
Yeah.
even the most well known is the Bitcoin, of course, and we've seen it drop 90% multiple times,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people along that path will say Bitcoin's dead,
Oh
and then
yeah.
it eventually hits a bottom, and then it comes back, and and it ends up much higher on the next all-time high. But again,
Yeah.
in
I
the
mean,
case of Bitcoin, these are 4-year cycles that we normally watch.
yeah, and that's one of the trends I was talking about. But Bitcoin actually got, I think it got down to around $12,000 at the bottom of the last
The last
downturn
one, yep, yep.
before it came up now almost $100,000 because its all time high now is 108,000 or 109,000. It could have been 109. So
Yeah,
it's
I guess it depends on which cycle. I mean, I remember going down all the way to like $3,500, but that might have
yeah,
been the last
like
bump before,
yeah,
it kind of
yeah.
made a W pattern. But yeah.
There are a lot of those patterns too.
So, okay, good. Well, Mark, I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate your sharing your story. And again, this isn't a video that you're watching for financial advice. It's more for entertainment purposes. Put the disclaimer in there like all the rest of the YouTubers. But um, it's good to hear a real experience from a real person like yourself. And we appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you for
Absolutely.
that.
Glad to help out.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close out this video now. And once again, thank you, Mark, for coming on to the channel here and sharing your story.
Yep. Thank you, Ace.